What's up, Internet? You're tuned in to episode 113 of the PotsCast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello.
And returning to the show this week, the Utah Overlord, Mr. Chuy, please.
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on, buddy? Thank you for coming back. We are here for, week 3 of our Ring Fit February challenge. We are all, we've proven that we're true swole mates here. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. If you haven't been keeping up, we have been exercising all month using Ring Fit Adventure. Chuy it was his idea. He's been joining us here and chatting about it. It's been a blast. We will, of course, be talking about that a little bit later. But before that, of course, we've also got a little bit of the Nintendo Direct recap. We've got some news from BlizzCon to talk about. We've got the leaking of Rare's canceled N64 title Dinosaur Planet. Some crazy stuff this week, including Zelda's 35th anniversary that we're going to talk about in our main topic. An absolutely packed show, even if we didn't have a Nintendo Direct this week. So without further ado, let me get through the shilling so we can jump into this nonsense week we have ahead of us. So, of course, we are the PotsCast. We are LootPots.com's weekly Nintendo and gaming podcast. You can get it every Monday morning, wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, we would appreciate it if you would go and get it over on YouTube. We have our brand new PotsCast channel that we launched just a few months ago. This past week, we made a big push. We are trying to get to 100 subscribers so that we can get our custom URL and, push the channel a little bit more. We have a lot of really exciting stuff coming to the new channel later this year. So you're going to want to go check it out. You're going to want to get that subscribe in there, and we'd really appreciate it. Even if you never plan on going and listening on YouTube, if you're an audio person, just take the 2 seconds, hop over there, give us a subscribe. It really would help us out. And thank you to everyone who went and did that this week. We really appreciate it. We're up to like 70 something this week we were in like the 30s. So thank you so much for everybody who came out in droves.
We're just about to cross the 80 mark, which I was so happy about.
Beautiful.
Like, in a single day, we went from like 33 up to 79, and I was so happy. Thanks to everyone that went and subscribed. And like P said, if you don't plan on listening to the show there, just subscribing, get us to that URL. Once we've got that URL, you can just forget about the show there. And you can keep listening how you always listen in your podcast app of choice. But for the time being, if you can help us out, we would really, really appreciate it.
And again, worth pointing out, there will be some exclusive content coming to there sooner or later that we probably won't throw on the RSS feed. That'll be, like extra little video tidbits. So for that stuff, you're going to go check it out. If you enjoy what we do here, you're going to enjoy that extra stuff. I guarantee it. Speaking of other stuff that you can check out, you can head over to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/LootPots, where we've been streaming every Thursday night. And actually, for the last couple weeks, we've been streaming on Friday nights, too, and it's been a blast. So this past week on Wednesday, Steve and I, we live streamed the Nintendo Direct with a bunch of members of the community who came and hung out. We did our Nintendo Direct reactions right after that. So if you want to go hear me and Steve's full thoughts of everything that went on in this week's Nintendo Direct, you can, of course, go and check that out. We're going to talk about Chuy's impressions in just a minute. But yeah, so that's a little bit of extra LootPots for you this week. But then also we went and did a stream with our pals Sierra Plus Ultra and AJ from Fanatics 4. We were over on Sierra's channel, rated over to ours. We've been doing that the last 2 weeks. So if you want to get the whole journey of our time in Super Mario 3D World, you're going to have to start on Sierra's channel and come to ours. But the VODs are up. They're great. It was a blast. We're probably going to do it again next week. So I hope you'll come tune in to all the fun stuff we've been doing over on Twitch. It's been a blast. We've really been having fun hanging out with all you guys and seeing new people come and tune in and figure out what we're all about. So yeah, go check that stuff out and have some fun with us. And then last but not least, the social stuff. Go follow us at LootPots on Twitter and Instagram. Come join the Discord. You can write to me at pete@lootpots.com. That's the best way to get involved in the show and get your thoughts right on the air during our weekly mail pot segment, which we've got a couple this week to jump into. And then finally, last but not least, you can head over to patreon.com/LootPots, where for just $1, you can get access to our extra show After Dark, where we keep the mics rolling for another hour or so, and we talk about, what's going on in our lives, what TV we're watching, just kind of anything that doesn't fit in the main show. You can go get it at After Dark for just $1. And for that $1, you'll get access to every episode we've ever done. So it's like 70 plus hours of content. Well worth your time, I think. So now let's jump into what we've been playing this week. Chuy, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, sure. I've been playing. I guess I'm continuing my trend of kind of it's a quiet point in the year, trying to get through some games that I didn't quite get through last year, or maybe even years before. So I've been revisiting Paper Mario, the Origami King, and it's like a love-hate relationship with aspects of the game. The battles, at first I was like, all right. I mean, I like puzzles. These are fine. But now I'm just like, I'm avoiding every single battle that I get into because I'm just like, I just don't want to spend my time on that. I like the adventure aspect to it. I like kind of the story. It's hilarious all the way through. And so I'm getting close to the end now. I think I've done 4 out of the 5 streamers. Um, so yeah, I'm getting there on that game. Um, Overall, though, I'd say it's like they're doing such a good job with the adventure stuff. It's such a bummer to see kind of the battle things not play out as well. And most of my complaints, it's not really the ring puzzles or anything. It just comes down to like the variety of motions that you do
Mm,
in a battle
okay.
because it's basically you have hammer and jump and they use the same 2 action commands for each of those like throughout. You can mix it up with like items like the fire flower and stuff, but I don't know, just like the base Mario moves that you get, it's not the most exciting.
It just feels
So,
like a little shallow, maybe.
yeah, it's shallow and I don't know, it feels like it's not needed at any point. Like all
Mm.
of the battles that are kind of like overworld things where you're fighting like the big paper mache things, I'm just like, replace it with that. That's so much more fun than
That's what I heard. Was that the boss fights were legit fun, but like all of the regular mob interactions, you can pretty much just skip, and there's not really any reason to do it, and the gameplay's not that fun. So it's like, oh, that
You can
sucks.
you can skip them by paying Toad, right? Is that how the mechanic works in the game?
I mean, you can pay Toad and get like some more time to do all of these, all the puzzles and stuff. I'll be honest with you, I don't pay Toads anything. I'm kind of cheap, so I just do it with the allotted time. And sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't. It is a real bummer when you fail because then it just takes that much longer. So I'm just like, man, maybe I should start paying these
It's
Toads.
so funny to me that you're like, I'm cheap with a in-game currency that like doesn't matter. Like that's like grandma who grew up during the depression energy where it's like a tip, forget it, we'll walk, you know?
Exactly. Um, yeah, no, I don't spend my money on it, so at times I do regret it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm near the end of the game, might as well. So maybe when I get back into it, the later today, maybe we'll see what I do.
it's it,
Um,
it's funny. I remember last week you had talked about this too. I think, or maybe we talked about it off mic. And like I've been playing 3D World and Bowser's Fury at night sometimes, and like when I've been laying in bed playing that, I'll just see like Chewy pop on and you're playing Paper Mario, and I'm like, oh, there you go. It's like 10 o'clock over in his time. It's like 1 a.m. I'm about to go to bed, and you're just getting ready to start playing Paper Mario.
yeah, I do a quick little check-in, see how far I get. But yeah, the boss is pretty cool. There's some points where I kind of forget the movements that I can do on the little circle thing. So I had one boss where I was just like, I really don't understand what I'm doing here. So there have been a couple where I've had to look it up because I'm just like, it's not connecting with me. I don't know.
Mm.
Some of the bosses are like not as intuitive as I think they thought they would be. Um, but maybe it's just me on that end because other people just get it. But yeah, outside of that, I've also been checking out Splatoon 2 some more. The
No
other day, I
surprise.
actually
I bet the numbers for Splatoon 2 are like through the roof this week after that direct.
I think they were, and I think it was to my benefit because I was doing really well.
Yeah, you have
Start
all the
getting
players
matched.
here who are rusty.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
these like people who are rank X but haven't played in like a year or something, and they're like getting back in the mix and just getting clowned.
Yeah, I think I'm noticing it for sure because the last couple months I've been like really off my game, losing all over the place. I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on. And this month has been very nice to me. And I think it is
Yeah.
exactly that. Just a lot of people who've been probably like, getting off of the game. It's not as exciting. I was talking to a friend of mine. I used to play on a competitive team, and he still plays competitively. And so I was chatting with him, and he was like, "Man, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I was starting to get a little bored with Splatoon 2, and I'm really hyped for Splatoon 3
How
now."
good is he? Can we draft him for our team?
He's really good. Yeah, I
Is
mean,
he
he'd
like
be
too
great.
good? Like, will he like not be down to play with us because we suck, or is he like gonna like is he down to
So,
carry?
so there's a league called Leagues Under the Ink, and a lot of people kind of go off of those divisions that people are on, and I think he got to first division.
Damn. So he's
Back when I
legit.
played with him, we were on third, and when we started out, we were fifth. So there was quite an improvement for us then. But yeah, he's definitely gone beyond that and
So
knows the game
like
a lot better than I do.
when it comes to Splatoon squads, Splat squads are they called? I think right.
We just call them squads, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So squads. Like, is there a rule? Like, is it like a regular esports team where are we allowed to have more people on the team than we need in a game, and you can like sub players out?
Yeah,
Okay.
there is. Most people tend to just go like one or two extras,
Okay.
depending on what they need. But really, it's just like, the more you all practice together and know how each other play, the better off you
Right.
are. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm saying like when Splatoon 3 comes out, I want to make a legit play. Like, like let's make that run for Worlds.
I'm all in.
We got to draft more good players though, like, if we can have people on the bench, it's
I mean, you can get plenty of practice with Splatoon 2.
it's true. Yeah.
And I'm sure, now's probably a good time to play with more people coming back to it. You'll
Yeah.
probably feel like, oh, it's more people who maybe haven't played as much as I have, and it equals that playing field for sure. It levels it out.
I'm genuinely like excited to play it again. Like that night we streamed it like what 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever. I was like, damn, like this game is really fun. I miss playing this. And then when they showed us Splatoon 3, like I've been thinking about it all week of just like, damn, I gotta find some time to play Splatoon. Like I've got to fit it in somewhere.
Yeah. Well, if you're like me, you found 1,000 hours of time to play Splatoon.
I'm not like you yet, Chuy, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've been playing. It's been fun. It's kind of nice when it gets quiet and there isn't too much getting in the way of old games.
I've been thinking about that recently, and I feel like 2020 and then like into 2021, we've hit such a perfect cadence for me with video game releases. Where I think like a lot of people were complaining that it was like kind of a slow year, but like I look back on 2020 and like I played so many games. I remember when we were doing our year in review, like Steve was like, "Yeah, you played like a ton of games this year," and like most of them were new, but I also felt less pressure to keep up with new shit. So there was like space for me to go back and play old stuff as well, and like it's nice. Like I feel like games are so like on a treadmill that you're so like, oh, it's the next thing. I missed my moment with this. I'm not going to play it. And like, I don't know. Like, I feel like between this year and last year, I feel like it's not just us. I feel like it's like the whole community, the whole industry is like a little bit more open to playing old stuff, and like the new consoles doing like the up-res and everything. Like old stuff feels new again. And I don't know, like it's cool to see that it feels like for whatever reason, this generation, like older games feel more relevant for longer. And I don't know, maybe it's just anecdotal, but it feels that way to me.
Well, I mean, I think so, and I think that though is not by choice in some extent. Like Microsoft had to hone in on that backwards compatible old game stuff because they lost their launch title for their new Xbox with Halo, whereas Sony didn't have to do that. They already had Spider-Man. They've got they had Astro's Playroom. They've got Ratchet and Clank coming out in June, so they had a bunch of stuff lined up, whereas Microsoft didn't. But having said that, I did play some Sniper Elite 4 this week just because I wanted to try out the new frame rate booster thing that they brought out. Wow, that thing is magic.
I want to try that with
it just feels like a 60 frames per second game. You would have no idea that they had done anything to it.
And you said you tried it with what?
Sniper Elite 4 because we already had it installed because Macaulay was playing it. And when Macaulay was playing it, it was visually obvious that it was 30 frames per second. It wasn't smooth. And that was when we came just off a Hitman. So it was really obvious. Like you're playing a 60 frames per second game, going down to that 30 frames per second, it feels jank. But then booting it back up, it's like, wow, okay, this is 60 frames a second again. And I think it's new Super Lucky's Tale goes all the way up to 120 frames per
Oh,
second.
what?
So
That
that
game is
one
great.
is boosted up to 120 frames per second on the
wild.
Series X.
And that's
I
on
love
Game
New
Pass,
Super
isn't it?
Lucky's Tale.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass. Yeah, I've never played it. True.
Me neither.
Like, how does it play like? Because I know some people had issue with Super Lucky Style, but when they did the new revision, it fixed a lot of the like camera quirks
Yeah.
that they had with that game.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play the first one, so my only experience is with this, but I think I played it around the same time I was playing ukulele.
Okay.
And playing ukulele, I think works better when you're coming like straight from Banjo-Kazooie. It's a million times better game at that from that perspective. Don't play it after playing like Mario Odyssey. But
Yeah.
like New Super Lucky's Tale comparatively, it's just like that's what I wish ukulele felt like. It just
Okay.
felt so much better. It felt like that true kind of like, mascot 3D platformer game that I feel I've been missing quite a bit. So
Yeah, we don't get them
it-
anymore, really. I mean, like
yeah,
Mario is it, and we get one of those like every 6 years. So like,
yeah, yeah, and that's like it's pretty easy. It's not like a real huge challenge, but just like the worlds and everything, the characters, it's really quirky and cute, and it kind of captures that feeling of Banjo-Kazooie early
Mhm.
on, where you're just like, oh man, this is just like a delight, you know. Um, and they mix in like kind of these 2D levels as well. They're not like fully 2D, still have like a 3D look to them and everything, but they're side scrolling, so they roll a lot like that. Um,
Like the new Super Mario Brothers games in terms of 2D.
yeah, exactly like that.
I
So
see.
it's cute overall. They have a lot. It's a pretty packed game with a ton of different things. There's some puzzle elements to it too. Some puzzle dedicated levels that are kind of like side questy and everything. So yeah, that game's adorable. I like it
Man,
a lot.
it bums me out so hard that neither of you has access to a PS5, so you can't try Astro. You guys would
Oh
love
yeah.
Yeah, I
Astro's
know.
Playroom. I like really want a proper non-VR Astrobot game after that, like so badly. It's such a
I think they've abandoned VR. The fact that you have to get an adapter to even get it to work with the new PlayStation, just
yeah.
they've given up.
I think you're probably. I mean, like I don't know if they come up with a PSVR 2, I won't be surprised. But if they don't, I'd get it.
I
It's a
kind
lot
of
of
wouldn't be
investment.
surprised though, just because like I don't know, whenever they do their little PlayStation Direct thing, I
Yeah.
feel like it's pretty heavily VR in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, and like they even after I think VR's like kind of initial wave of consumer curiosity had kind of waned, like they were still putting out meaningful exclusives and stuff. Like the Iron Man VR game is only on PSVR, and like that was like the
Yeah.
most talked about VR game last year. So I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
know. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Steve's right and they're just like the returns on this are not there, and like they said that they knew that when they got into VR and that they wanted to commit to the tech and all that. And if they still feel that way, great. But I don't know. A few years in the
Side note-
space can also, I think, sometimes color that opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Side note, I almost bought the Labo VR just in preparation for like an Animal Crossing VR update.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's gonna happen. I still haven't gotten it, but I will regret it if it's like unavailable and they add that.
Labo's unavailable everywhere here. Like the only
Yeah.
one you can get is the VR one, and it's strange to me they never did another revision to make it fit with the Switch Lite. It feels like they just gave up with Labo at some point. It was just like, this isn't working. They reduced the price of all of them down to like 20 quid and just sold out the stock, and now you can't get them anywhere, which is a real shame. Because I had a lot of fun building Labo. The only one I really cared about was the piano because I thought that was so cool. Being
That
able
is
to like
really
make
cool.
music with the Switch.
There's this musician I love who also has like a YouTube channel and everything, and Her name is Amy Waters, and I don't know if it was a whole album or if I can't remember. It was like a while ago. But they did a composition only using the Labo keyboard because they do all like synthwave, like VGM stuff. It's fucking awesome. Amy Waters on YouTube. But yeah, and I remember. You remember when they released that original synth on the Switch? Like you could download it as an app, and it's like the Moog like MIDI thing. They had a series where they were like once a week they were composing an entire EP just on their Switch. That's so fucking cool.
That's awesome.
So as for me, the only thing I've really been playing this week has been Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. I finally jumped into Bowser's Fury this past week, and oh my god, Bowser's Fury is so cool. It is so cool. I have so much regret that I didn't play it last week to be able to talk about it, because when I jumped in, I was like, all right, I'm gonna like pop this on. I'll play it for like an hour or so, and then I'm gonna head up to bed. And that was at like 9 or 10 or something, and I played until like 1 in the morning, and I think I'm almost done with it, but I'm like, oh my god, I don't want this to be over. Like I got 2 hours in, and I was like, this is gonna be over way quicker than I want it to be. I can already tell.
How many times have you fought Bowser?
3? 4?
Yeah, I think you're close to the end.
Yeah,
then.
I think I'm pretty close. Which is such a bummer. I bet you the next time I sit down, I'll finish it. But oh my god, it's just so creative. Like it's such a creative use of the IP and of like the things that you know about 2D and 3D Mario, you know, like synthesizing them into something fresh, you know, and like I think it's so cool for a lot of reasons. Like I really would love to see Nintendo commit to like smaller experiences like this that cost less money. Similar to like what we saw with like Miles Morales on PS5 this past year. That would be really cool. But also like the idea of them kind of doing these little mini experiences as like tie-ins to re-releases and stuff, and then like kind of use those as like a test bed for ideas that you flesh out into like a full-fledged game. Like I'd play a full Mario game like this easy. Like yeah, 100%. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and I really enjoy the kind of like getting around there too, like Plessy just popping up wherever you need.
Yeah.
So you're just like, if I'm bored, I can go right around there. I posted a really hilarious tweet where I'm stranded in the middle of the ocean, and just while Bowser has popped up in the Fury Bowser mode, and so I'm just like, oh no, what do I do? And I turn around and Plessy's there, and I'm trying to get to Plessy, and then all of a sudden just flames.
Oh no!
But yeah, there's some pretty comedic things that happen when Bowser is just like rampaging throughout that place, and it's all kind of accidental, and I love that it's just like it's really well integrated to that whole world.
It makes the world feel like alive.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like the enemies change in the positions over time, and like randomly.
Yeah, and when you get some like new blocks pop up when he's around, there's areas you can only access when like Bowser's in his fury and like has to burn down the bricks, which I think is really cool.
Mhm.
So there are some like secret areas you need to remember where they are and quickly rush back to them when the rain starts coming, because you know Bowser's gonna kick off.
Yeah, and like I love how you'll be in the middle of doing something and you can like see him in the horizon like starting to rise, and you're like, oh shit, all right, like I gotta get somewhere and be ready for this. Like it really does, like, even though it's such a small level in the grand scheme of things, right? Like it's, you know, it's a smaller experience. It feels so lived in, like it feels so alive, like it was this living, breathing place before you got there. And Mario doesn't always feel that way. Like Odyssey kind of felt that way, but often it just feels like
it reminds
levels.
it reminds me a lot of Sunshine though, like walking around Isle Delfino. We've got the dirt blocking out the lighthouses. You've got Shadow Mario that you're chasing,
And they're
in certain
called
aspects to get him.
Cat
You've
shines.
got cat shines to go get to open up the lighthouses again. And there's people that live on all of these islands, like they're cats rather than people, and you have to like go get the cats and take them back to the mother, who always
When they
seems to
turn
lose
evil,
her offspring.
Like when Bowser,
Yes.
the first time that happened, I was like, what? Like it was the very first, like you get on that first island, you go around the corner, and like if you're in the cat suit, all the little cats come and follow you, and like it's so cute.
Yeah.
And I was like sitting there playing with them, and then all of a sudden they all turn evil and start attacking me. And I was like, no, I don't want to kill the cats.
Yeah,
So good.
can you kill them? I just ran away from them.
I don't know. I've not tried because I
ran away.
don't want to.
Yeah, I refused.
Yeah, I wouldn't try it at all.
So yeah, I just bailed. But and then I died like in that interaction, which was the first time that Bowser came alive because I was like, oh, what do I do? How do I fight him? Whatever. And then I went back and it didn't happen in the same way, and I was like, oh my god, it's on a timer. Like that's so clever. It's so clever because it leads to more of those like water cooler moments, you know? And like I love that Nintendo has been like leaning into that. Like I feel like that's the right lesson to learn from Breath of the Wild is not like that you need to be able to glide or climb or like those things are cool. But like what's cool about that game is that it feels alive because there's so many of these smart systems that are built and then implemented to happen like naturally, not only through scripted moments. So the scripted moments feel more significant and the unscripted stuff feels scripted, you know? And like that's so cool. It really is like such a, I don't know, it makes it feel so much less like just you're checking boxes in a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's what I want games to feel like moving forward, you know?
Yeah, I do, but I also do really love 3D World and like having played more of that with you, Sierra, and AJ. Like I know that's more of a traditional Mario where it is we're ticking those boxes. Like, did we get all the stars? Did we get the stamp? Did we do this? Did we do that? But playing that with friends and also playing it on my own because I've gone back and I've completed pretty much every level that we have messed up and ruined as we've gone along on the.
I've been like getting all the stars, so I'm like still behind us a little bit.
But I there's some levels I can't get the stars. I just refuse to even try. Some of the levels I just despise in that game because they're too difficult for me. But I will go through. Like the ones in those greenhouses where you just it's like little level after little level after little level.
Yeah.
But if you fail on one of them, you have to go back and do them all again. And I'm like, no, I'll pass on that. I'll come back to these later because I don't need the stars right now.
Sure. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Like I love that game. But to me, like that's what's so great about specifically Mario and Zelda as Nintendo franchises is that they're both series that have such a strong vision for the two different kinds of games that like they're both great and they're both totally different, like basically totally different genres, but they're so rewarding in very different ways. Like I think Super Mario 3D World is the most rewarding 2D Mario game I've played, I don't know, like since the Wii maybe, with like the first new Super Mario Brothers. And that's awesome. I'm so glad for that. I'm loving it. But also like Bowser's Fury represents like a potential new third direction or things they could evolve into the 3D formula, and it's just exciting to see. And I was watching a review that Donkey had done about it, and he was saying that like the worst part of being a Mario fan is that like it's such a long wait between games, and like you get a game like Odyssey and you fall in love with it, and you're like, oh my god, give me more of this, and they just don't. So like getting this, like
they really should have done DLC for that. That wasn't just like go find Luigi's balloon.
I know, like even if it was just like one extra world, it would have been. I would have been like, like let's go. I don't know. We could still get a 2. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility, but this was a great thing to tide you over. So like, basically, I just wanted to say, if you haven't picked this game up, if you've been like thinking about it, I absolutely think you should. Super Mario 3D World, the port is worth the price of admission alone, especially if you didn't play it on Wii U like me. But I think like, I don't know. I think that there are a lot of people who bought it and are like maybe not realizing how cool Bowser's Fury is as an add-on. Because it really blew me away. Like this is like a strong contender for like Game of the Year for me. Right now, obviously, we're in February. It's very, very beginning of the year. That's kind of meaningless, but I think it will be a top 10, top 5er for me throughout the year. And other games will really have to work to dethrone it because I really like what they're putting down in Bowser's Fury.
Yeah,
So Steve, I know you were also playing Mario World, but you also had Mario Party on your list.
Yeah, so I cracked out Mario Party because I had to take Macaulay's great nan for a vaccine, COVID vaccine on Friday.
Hell
So she's
yeah.
finally vaccinated. And while we were there, like we played a little bit of Mario Party with Macaulay's mum. And it was really, really fun. Like I love this game, and I was devastated we didn't hear anything about a DLC or a sequel or anything for Mario Party in the direct. I was really
Give
hopeful
us
we
a
would get
Super Mario
something
Party
up
2,
for it.
man.
Well, then I had my late night thought last night when I was down that rabbit hole of the next Super Mario Party should be Wario Party, and it should be the WarioWare game mini games, and like Wario comes in and like scribbles out Mario and like takes over the game. And I need to pitch this to Nintendo
Dude,
somehow because I think that's a
Well,
winner of a game.
you need to make a video about that, honestly. Like, I'll help you if you want. Like, when you threw that out, and Sierra and I replied to it on Twitter, I was like, that's fucking genius. That's a great idea. That would be such a good way to bring both of those franchises back, like, in proper form, you know? And you split them off again, but, like...
Yeah, exactly. But like, have Wario just be like, "Yeah, stop this, Mario. I'm taking over," and then like he just goes crazy because those mini games were so fun, and you could easily bring them into a Mario Party environment, and you make all the courses just nasty rather than like you're buying stars. Maybe you're buying like something else to like attack other people and things. There's a lot you could do with that game.
Something I thought would
Yeah.
be fun was if you had it be like a greatest hits for both of them, where it was like that 100 best Mario Parties game they put out on 3DS. It was like all of those games plus, top maybe 200 WarioWare because they're a little shorter, but and like kind of mix them all up in a grab bag. So it could be this thing where like at the end of every round, like you're supposed to go do your Mario Party game, but like sometimes Wario comes in and like you do like 4 WarioWare games instead,
Yes.
or like
Yeah, that
in
would
the
be so
middle
cool.
of a turn, maybe you hit a Wario space and there's a WarioWare mini game, but then at the end of the turn, you still always do the Mario Party games, and like you kind of have them break up gameplay in like different ways, or like subvert your expectation of what you're gonna do and how it's gonna play out. Like I feel like that's such a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as like boards go too, like WarioWare itself takes place in like Diamond City, and there's a bunch of different locations that are pretty well themed, from like Ashley's Halloween stuff to
Sure.
what are the little retro guys called? I always forget, but they've got like all their Mario themed mini games, like anything like Nintendo themed and everything. So I don't know, they can really mix in a lot of cool elements from that city into the boards and everything.
And
I
like
hope this is something they're considering because it would be so cool.
it would really help put WarioWare over too, because like I think WarioWare is one of those franchises that like if you're like a deep Nintendo fan, you're like, yeah, WarioWare is really cool and really fun, and most people just don't know what it is. Whereas like Mario Party is one of the most ubiquitous video games,
It's had more games than any other like Mario Offspin game. Like it's more than like Mario Kart at this point because we got stuck
Yeah,
at 8 and then
that makes
never
sense.
went forwards. And Mario Party's I think on like the 11th mainline game, but then a bunch of like offshoots, like the Mario Party mini game pack. There's a game I really want to get, and I'll talk about it in After Dark. You two don't know about it, but Mario Party E, which was an e-reader game, an
What?
e-reader Mario Party game.
Oh
I
wow,
really want
no.
to find a copy of this. So I'll tell you all about it. It looks really cool, and I really want to find a copy of it and do a video on that as well. I'm just a massive Mario Party nerd, and it's really sad, but I am.
Mario Party rules. I played Mario Party 2 on my Wii with GameCube controllers plugged in for like a solid that whole generation. What, 6 years, whatever, 8 years maybe. Like that was a regular staple of like party games with my friends in my 20s. And like the game was, I don't know, 20 years old at that point, like whatever it was.
Yeah.
Loved it, man. Love that game.
I love them. Yeah, the Mario Party was always huge with like my sisters and everything. They basically played with me Diddy Kong Racing or Mario Party.
Hell yeah.
Either.
Yeah.
And I think at the time it was Mario Party 2, especially. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mario Party
two's
was
my
the only
favorite.
way we could get my mum to play a game with us. Like she wouldn't play video games with us unless it was like I remember trying to get her to play, and it was in hindsight the most stupid game to get her to try and play. Colin McRae Rally on the PS1. Like,
Oh
why is she
no.
going to be interested in playing this? And she gets the PS1 controller and she's like tilting it like this to try and get around the corners.
She's a few years before her
Obviously, you
time.
couldn't do that. Yeah, yeah, like way before. That's an actual thing. And then she refused to play ever again after that. But then she was always into the Mario Party games. And one thing I really missed from that series that it hasn't been in for a good while is the battle royale modes where you could like team up. Because
Yes.
mum wasn't great at the game, but if she would like team up with me or team up with my brother and my dad would team up with the other one of us, and it made it so that she actually felt like she was progressing in the game and could do something. And also the handicaps,
Yeah.
so that you could set a level of handicap, like you could give someone a star if they weren't particularly good at the game, or give them a bunch of coins at the beginning, or like do negative for the other person. So it felt like you could level out the playing field a lot better. Whereas in Super Mario Party, all of that stuff got removed. It was like really back to basics. And I hope that in the next iteration of the game, a lot of that stuff is brought back. Because those things really made the game a lot more accessible to people who don't really play video games, which I think is what this game is really focused towards.
Well,
Yeah.
doesn't Super Mario Party have that like kind of team up battle mode that's kind of based off of Star Rush?
It's got the Team River mode, so you go down the river and
Right,
you
right.
like
No,
you
there's
like
one where it's like it's all the same boards, but you
Oh
can
yes, yes, I know the one. But you can like move anywhere on the board,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that one was kind of based off of Star Rush, which I thought was an actually pretty decent. Like I think that was the first like
I think I played that.
handheld Mario Party slash. Well, I guess I did the top 100 after that, but that was the first one where I felt like, oh, you're doing something unique that's actually kind of interesting and makes the game not feel just like cheap compared to the other handheld games. But yeah, that mode it can get pretty wild with people like chasing or trying to race each other for different spaces and landing on the right
Yeah.
spot. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do like that one. It's for me though, it nothing beats like Mario Party 5 and Mario Party 6 where you had the battle royale, you got the capsules and you could put them on the spaces. So if you had like a nasty capsule, you could like put it on a space and you might land on it or another team might land on it. And those maps were like the most creative. I miss those. They were like the golden years before Hudson Soft like stopped making games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
Anyway,
think that's Konami's fault, right? Didn't they buy them out?
I
Mm.
believe they did.
I think they may have, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure though.
Either way,
bummer.
I would love to see a proper return for Super Mario Party. I think it showed a lot of promise, but just missed the mark a little bit. So hopefully the next one they get it right. But we do need to move on. We have a lot of show left to go here. But so let's jump into the Nintendo Direct recap real quickly. So again, Steve and I did do a full episode, an extra episode of the show, which is in your RSS if you are subscribed. It is, wherever you go and get the show, it's there. It was up on Friday night, oh wait, was that when it was? Wednesday? Thursday? When was the Direct?
Wednesday, last Wednesday.
It was up on Wednesday, right after the Direct, like minutes after the Direct. So if you missed it, you can go check that out. And we dug into all of the announcements and really got into the nitty gritty of things. Obviously, if we had done that on this show, it would have been like 3 hours. So go check that out. But I did want to give Chuy the opportunity to talk a little bit. And also, you had a video of your own that you put out, right?
Yeah. In my video, I basically just talked about the stuff that I was most excited about. Pyra Smash announcement, very cool. Makes me want to get back into Xenoblade. But I'm terrible at RPGs, mostly because I get really into them. I spend way too long getting distracted by side quests and stuff, and then 100 hours later, I'm halfway through the
Like the
game.
90 hours you put in a Fire Emblem, and you were like, oh yeah, I'm like, no, I don't even think I got to the time skip yet. And I was like, what the hell? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, I think that game took me 110 hours to get through that main story.
That's almost twice, I think, what my clock was. And I did like all the side quests, I thought.
Yeah, I did a lot in that game. I get distracted, so
Respect.
very cool. What was that?
I said respect.
Oh yeah. The other stuff I liked, I mean, Animal Crossing Mario stuff. it was really surprising to see that the warp pipes are actually gonna warp us
That's
to things.
huge. How
Oh, yeah,
how
that was so cool.
insanely useful is that? Oh my god.
Yeah, it's useful, and there's just like so much potential for what people can do. Whether it's like, they make an island on their island that's pretty detached and you have to warp to it. That's something. And just all these locked off sections that you can connect. There was some more information on the Japanese site regarding those. You can put multiple around your island. You can't control where they go, so it is random. You'll hop into one and just see where you end up.
Oh no.
Um, you can put them inside your house, though, and warp from your house to an outside location,
That's
or
awesome.
vice versa. But yeah, it seems like they've got some pretty interesting mechanics. The one thing I pointed out in my video was like there was obviously a cut here where they went into the the tube and then out of it. The loading screen is going to be a lot longer than that
Oh,
when you
sure.
actually use it.
I figured, yeah.
Yeah, that's just how Animal Crossing goes.
So how do you think you'll use it, Chewy? Do you think you'll use more than one and deal with the random element, or will you just have like a 1-to-1 track?
I think the terraforming has made some like interesting things happen with the game where rivers became a lot more traversable with the terraforming. Like you can
Yeah.
put a little skip across. I think the pipes kind of make that happen in a way for the cliffs where it's like I don't know, depending on how long it actually takes to warp from one to the other, it can make it a little bit quicker to get up those parts of the cliffs where you're like, oh, I'm out of inclines. I can't really get up here. Maybe I'll just put a warp pipe and make it a little bit faster and everything.
Yeah.
But the most interesting idea that I saw was from a friend of mine, Wilbo, who also does like a bunch of Animal Crossing content. But he tweeted out that there are glitches to get onto the fourth tier of your island. And if
Really?
you do that, like you can actually like decorate the fourth tier, plant trees, do a bunch of stuff that is not really accessible because the game literally just says it's too dangerous to climb up there. Don't do that. So now like people can use that glitch, put a warp pipe up there and make it easily accessible, not only for you, but people who visit you.
So you just get
Um,
like a whole extra level to your island. That's crazy.
Yeah, which it's already so much with the 3 levels alone, but, like, just anything that makes it a little bit easier to decorate that 4th level for people is gonna be pretty cool,
So what does that look like? Like, can you see the fourth level, or is it like you?
So you can build up a cliff and you can see it and everything. Basically the only thing that will grow on there, and it's mostly by the design of the weeds. They'll kind of spread out and start growing up there if you have one. But outside of that, like if you don't access it, you can't put anything up there. You can't terraform up there. Even if you get up there, but through the glitches, you still can't do anything like terraforming up there.
Just
But
trees?
you can place any piece of furniture, any
Oh.
like plant life and everything. So you can decorate them if you do get up. But yeah, outside of that, it's just like there's not really a point to making a fourth layer unless you can access it. And this item I feel makes it consistent for you to access.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The other things I liked, I think I heard you not too interested in this one, Steve, but I liked the Project Triangle strategy game.
Yes, my
Oh my
dude.
god. I I played part of this demo earlier
Uh-huh.
and I put it on. I was like, I'm gonna play a little bit before the podcast so I can at least talk about it.
hmm
10 minutes into this demo, they were still talking, and I hadn't played anything. And so I clicked fast forward, and it just went "Du-du-du-du-du-du-du-du-du," and it was doing this for like 30 seconds of. I would have had like I reckon another 5 more minutes of chat. Then it went on to the next scene, and I thought, okay, here we go. Nope, still more talking.
Oh
So I
my
was like,
god.
I can't be bothered to play this game. I really cannot be bothered to play this game because I don't care about the story enough
You can't do that in a demo, man.
to
You gotta
listen
just
to all of this.
get to the gameplay already, you know? Like, come on.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is rough for sure.
did you try the
But
demo,
yeah,
Chewy?
I haven't gotten to try it yet. I
Me
was
either.
gonna turn it on today, hopefully. But I don't know. I love tactical RPGs.
Yeah.
I want to say like a few weeks ago, I was just feeling like, man, I wish there was a new Final Fantasy Tactics.
Have you
And
have you played Wargroove?
I do have Wargroove, and I've had fun with that.
It's a good one.
But yeah, like Final Fantasy Tactics was really fun. Specifically, Tactics Advance on Game Boy Advance.
Hell yeah,
It,
Chewy.
that,
I love that
yeah,
game.
that one's on the Wii U, and I've been tempted to get it again just so I can play it on a huge screen instead of a little tiny Game Boy Advance screen. Um, but yeah, like this gives me those vibes. Like it's from Square Enix, so I feel like they kind of have something to work off in that sense. And I am interested in, kind of if it has like different classes and things when you play through and train up your units. I mean, we definitely saw a few where they showed off like the archers, for example, where they're like, oh, when they're on higher ground, they can shoot further, kind of thing. So I
That's like
am,
right out of Tactics.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't know, it gives me that vibe, and it's a game that I miss, which tactics games tend to come off as the same, but they're all pretty different. Like even Wargroove is a very different style tactics
Yeah.
game.
That's like way more like an Advance Wars than like Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics, and Fire Emblem has its own vibe, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I love this kind of game, and like even if the story is whatever, like I think I'll like it for the gameplay. I
Hmm.
hope.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you
I
ever
mean,
get to the gameplay.
We'll see.
when you get to it in 3 hours, right? Splatoon 3, obviously huge for me.
Yeah, we're gonna go pro.
Yeah, we're going pro. So I mean,
Yeah.
there were some cool things in that trailer. Specifically, people noticed like a lot of the weapon redesigns that I guess this is kind of going deep into Splatoon competitive play, but there are like weight classes for weapons and speeds and everything that go along with those weight classes, movement time, shooting time, all that sort of thing. So I'm kind of like, ooh, is this going to change things a little bit for some weapons? It'll be interesting. The new bow and arrow weapon, that's just brand new. We haven't had that type of thing before. But the most interesting thing for me was the spawn point thing, where we're kind of like shooting ourselves from the air and can choose a location to spawn to. Um, that is that's going to change up play for sure. I don't know what kind of limits they're going to have on how you spawn and everything, but as of right now, like we have that one spawn point at the beginning of the map, and we can super jump to any other player. But yeah, being able to do that straight from spawn, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm really excited for Splatoon 3. I think like especially like having like people that I know who play regularly now. I'm like I think this is going to be the one that I really have a chance to get in on. And not
yeah.
just like it, play it for a month or two and then have no one to play with.
Oh, there's always someone to play with, Pete. Me and Chewy are here if you want to play. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
not anywhere near Chewy's level. Like, I'm like B or A in most most of the matches. Not anywhere near X. So Chewy's there to carry us.
It's true.
But like, I'm always up for some.
I want
for
to
a
get
round
good.
Splatoon.
I want to get good. I'll have to really push myself to start practicing.
Yeah, it's fun.
So again, go check out both of the videos that Chuy and we did about the direct if you want to get our full thoughts there. Did just want to touch on it real quickly. But before we jump into the rest of the news, two things real quick. We had a question here from One Up Mango who wrote in and said, "Are you expecting any Nintendo Switch related announcements in anticipation or celebration of Pokemon Day this week?" Absolutely. I think we're gonna get a whole Pokemon Direct. What the contents of that Direct are, I think, are very up in the air. Pokemon is like, it's tough, right? There's a lot of predictable things that you could throw out, right? Like, we'll probably see another glimpse of Pokemon Snap 2, but maybe not because it's so close. We'll probably see a new mobile game. We'll probably see some type of retro anniversary celebration clothing or toys or cards or something like that. There is a Pokemon card shortage going on right now, so maybe not. And then I
Trading
think,
card shortage.
what's that?
All trading cards, they're
Yeah,
suffering right
yeah.
now.
Which has kind of weirdly been good for them as a business, but whatever. Obviously, there's the Gen 4 remakes that everybody's always talking about. They're overdue. That could easily be the next thing. It could be a Let's Go Johto. It could be a glimpse of the next generation. I don't think that that's coming out soon, but there's a lot that could come from this. I think you can definitely expect one, and you can expect big announcements whatever shape they take.
Let's go Togepi and Pichu. Those are my guests for mascots. That they
I
go
think
with.
that's probably right if they do happen at all.
I wonder if we'll see Pokemon Sleep finally.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah. Did either of you try the toothbrush one, like
No.
Pokemon, like brush your teeth
Yeah.
or whatever it was?
I definitely did.
You tried it?
So okay. I have a bamboo toothbrush and it's too close to my skin tone, so I don't think it picked it up very well. So I could never catch anything.
Oh,
It
no.
was bad. I'm like, I need to try a different toothbrush for this game.
I
Get like a bright.
You need like a yellow toothbrush or something that'll like really stand out.
Yeah, I think it's something like bright blue. Yeah.
That's great.
I've jumped aboard the Pokemon Gen 4 train. I would love it now.
I would too.
I mean, I don't know if it'll happen. Probably won't, but I'm on there.
I love Gen 4. I would love a I don't know how you would I don't know what prefix they'd add to it or whatever to make it sound new, but new Diamond and Pearl. Okay, so then real quick before we get into the rest of the news, we wanted to quickly recap our predictions for 2021 because we have already seen some developments that have not bode super well for me.
And have boded fantastically for me.
Yeah,
which has been great.
So I guess I'll start, right?
Yeah.
Right now, one of my predictions is already off the list. So let me just pull up the full predictions list I had because I feel like there was one other one that might be in jeopardy. But the first one that's already done is I predicted that Nintendo would remain quiet for the beginning of 2021 while they kind of got their ducks in a row for a loud and vocal second half of 2021. Of course, them putting out their first direct in 18 months that had some pretty significant announcements. I think it's safe to say that they were not quiet. So for Q1, so we're going to say number 7 on my list is already crossed off. I'm going to throw this out there too. I found my full list. Number 2 was Grezzo will release another Zelda remake in 2021 in honor of the 35th anniversary. We talked about how they're hiring for an original IP, and I'm real nervous about that one.
Well, they also it came out this week that they also did the port of Miitopia, so they may port another like 3DS game.
Yeah,
they might not make it new.
Too. It's medieval.
I don't know. But I feel pretty confident about some of my other ones. I think the full reveal of Breath of the Wild 2 is definitely going to happen. So like,
yeah, I think mine's screwed with Breath of the Wild 2, which says it's going to be released second half of 2021. At this point, I'm feeling like we're going to see it second half of 2021, but it's not coming until 2022.
That's kind of where I'm at now. And do you remember like mid last year when we were like, it could come out in March? Like we were so like, it could happen. I'm so disappointed.
I think it's still March, but it's going to be 2022 March.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I've got one that's come true already, which I'm very happy about. Splatoon 3 will be announced, and it was announced this week. So
I thought you said it was going to come out. Damn it!
No, I said announced. That was my prediction because I
bummer.
didn't know if it was coming in 2021. So I'm very happy because I didn't go too specific on release date, which I did for most of the other ones
You're
on my
up
list.
one, I'm down one. That's not great.
So far, I'm doing okay about not hearing anything about Bayonetta 3 or Metroid Prime 4 if they keep quiet about those two. But I am quietly worried about another 2D Zelda game, which is similar to your Grezzo one. I don't know if we're going to see it at this point with Skyward Sword announced this week.
If it doesn't happen, though, then it's just a wash, right? Because we both made predictions about it. So then it's like, all right, whatever. That doesn't really matter. So that's the one I'm most worried about. The other ones I think I've made, I'm pretty confident on.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I'm very happy that I'm currently winning, and we'll keep an eye on this for the rest of the year.
I gotta win quickly so I can make you play. Oh no, you're gonna play Mass Effect before that though for the game club, right? That's what we're doing.
No, I'm not gonna play it now.
No, you agreed to that. You agreed. I'm sorry. Did I not recommend your favorite TV show of all time just a few weeks ago? Just a few short weeks ago?
You did.
All right.
You did, yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right, so let's move into the rest of the news. Jumping into a little non-Nintendo news this week. This was a big Steve announcement, so I'm going to turn it over to him and let him tell the whole story.
This week's like Christmas. I've had Splatoon 3. We got news about Diablo 4, and then the announcement of Diablo 2 Resurrected, which I'm beyond excited about. It's better than I could have ever expected. It's a full 3D 4K remaster, essentially a remake of Diablo 2 and the expansion Lord of Destruction in a 3D engine. It's coming to PC or consoles with cross progression, but not cross-play, which I don't think many people realized.
That's kind of a bummer.
8-player online co-op. It's a real bummer. 8-player online co-op, and you can switch in real time between the 3D graphics mode and the 2D sprite mode from the original game if you want to. And it's being developed by Blizzard with their in-house studio, Vicarious Visions. The fact that they're still calling it a separate studio, to me, is crazy. That's directly from their press release.
I will say,
they're calling them an in-house studio.
When you tweeted about it, I like was joking with you, and I sent you that gif of like a person pouting or whatever, and I was like, but when I read that, I was like, oh. So, like, did they not dissolve Vicarious Visions? Like, okay.
No, it's still a separate studio.
All right.
It's still a separate studio, and they've got the principal designer at Vicarious Visions is the lead developer on Diablo 2 Resurrected. And then they got someone in early last year who worked for the Coalition previously, and also got the Rod Ferguson, who's the executive producer of all Diablo games now, and he also worked on getting that BioShock Infinite game across the finish line. In the industry, he's been kind of, according to Eurogame, in the industry, he's known as the closer, and he comes in and just finishes games and gets them across the finish line. So he's doing that with Diablo 2, thankfully.
It reminds me of the guy who's like the wolf from Pulp Fiction. He's like, I'm the fixer.
Yeah, he comes in clean.
I jump at the 11th hour and fix this fucking game. That's great. Yeah, I think I'm still not happy about the Vicarious Visions news for what it means for me personally, but like seeing that the name isn't dissolved and that they're actually doing like a from the ground up remake makes you feel like this is way less of a waste of their talents. So I'm way less salty about it than I was when this news dropped. Like, I'd still rather see them work on Tony Hawk for me, but for you, I'm stoked because this means that this is probably gonna fucking kick ass. Like, this is gonna be an awesome remake. So
yeah, and I highly recommend anyone that's interested go and read Eurogamer's interview. They did an interview with Rob Gallerani, which is the principal designer at Vicarious Visions, talking about some of the things that they're changing, some of the things they aren't changing. So staples of Diablo 2, like small inventory, potions on a belt, stamina, those things are staying. They were removed for Diablo 3. We got rid of the potions. You got like balloons and like a constant refillable potion. But that also gives me pause as to how this is going to translate to a controller. You know, back in 2000, you'd be on your keyboard and your hands, very much like World of Warcraft, would be on the 1 to 9 keys, hitting the potions that you know you've assigned. Like, number 1's my mana potion, number 2's my health potion, and you'd have them in the slots that you knew. Or you would have, because they had potions which are essentially like hand grenades that you could throw in Diablo 2.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is all going to map to a controller, so I'm very intrigued as to how this is going to work.
I feel like what they'll probably have to do is have it be like you like hold a button and it pulls up a hot menu, and then each of those is mapped to a button, and then you can push the D-pad and it'll go to the next page, and it'll be more cumbersome.
That's
but
my guess.
I guess it'll be. I would guess it's something
cumbersome.
like that, where it's going to be like they have a clumsy hotbar, basically.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm very, very interested to see how it translates to a controller. I can't personally decide where I'm going to pick this up because part of me really wants to see this in 4K, 60 frames per second on my Xbox. Part of me really wants to lie down on the sofa and play the classic Diablo 2 that I know and love and have played maybe 100 times over. And the fact that they're going to be adding to this, presumably with like seasons like they did for Diablo 3 and stuff. I'm excited to see where it goes. A bit disappointed that there's no crossplay, at least at launch, but hopefully that is something that comes in the future because it would be good to play with people on all platforms.
Just saying, Steve, maybe this is, if you win, maybe this is the game you make me play.
You're not going to play it anyway?
I'm not particularly interested, if I'm being honest.
Oh my god, yeah, though. If I win, this is the game we're
I
playing.
don't love
We're gonna
Diablo.
play Diablo 2.
Yeah, I've only played 3, so like, and it was fine. I just, whatever. And people love 2, so maybe this is the one. I could become a hipster and be like,
I
2
feel
is
like
the
if
good one.
Diablo 3 didn't hook you, Diablo 2 is probably not going to hook you because Diablo 3 added so many quality of life improvements that
There you
you'll
go.
go back to Diablo 2 and you'll be like, what the fuck? I can only carry like 2 pieces of armor and then my storage is filled up and I have to like go back to town every 5 minutes. And unlike in Diablo 3 where you just have town portals that exist, you have to keep scrolls and a tome in your inventory so that you have a finite number of portals that you can go.
That's
If you want to
ridiculous.
identify items, they're not done automatically. You have to have a scroll of identity or take it back to the guy in town.
Why did you think
to
I would
identify
play
it
this
for you.
then?
I don't know. I love this game. Like this is my childhood game. So like I adore Diablo. I'm
Well,
very, very excited.
You'll have to get me to play it then. Hopefully you win your predictions. Or we could bargain. If you just play Mass Effect and I don't have to twist your fucking arm, I'll just play it. Think about that.
Okay.
Don't answer today. Think
Done.
about it. Done? All right,
I've
great.
thought about it. It's done.
Done. Great. Sign a contract. Okay, we have a question from the mail pod. This one comes from Affy, one of our Patreon supporters over on Twitter, who said, how is Steve going to talk us all into buying Diablo? Well, he just did. That's it. We just bartered for it, so I'm in.
Yeah, but I'm also just gonna beg you all to join my party and just like bang that drum for months on Twitter. Just everyone needs to come and play Diablo with me. It's 8 players. Come on, we can get 8 people together to play Diablo 2. We just need to decide a platform that we're all gonna play
Chuy,
on.
you down?
Why not?
All right. We got a squad. We got 3 people. Let's go. We got 5 more. 5 more slots. Come on, guys. Can I be a necromancer? Can I call that?
You can be a necromancer.
I want
Yeah.
to dibs on that. 'Cause they took that out of 3,
That's
right?
fine. No, he came back.
Oh, okay.
They
That
got
was
rid of
before-
Rogue, they got rid of Rogue in Diablo 2, coming back to Diablo 4. Everyone's very excited about Rogue.
Oh, very exciting. Speaking of things that were canceled and brought back, Rare's canceled N64 game Dinosaur Planet, which you may remember as the game that eventually became Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube, has leaked online this week. And it is this is a fascinating story and one I'm really eager to see continue to play out, and one that I'm deeply interested in being a part of at some capacity. So this dropped earlier this week. It was actually yesterday at the time of this recording. And it's at Forest Illusion on Twitter. Forest of Illusion is like a group that their whole thing is that it says on their Twitter, right? We preserve Nintendo's history. And they bought this dump of the game, which is very late in development. It's like basically the whole game. They bought it from a private collector, and it's like dated from December 1st, 2000. And they said that basically there's going to need to be some hacking to be made to make it like fully playable to the end. But like most of the work is there. And you know, there are already people who are loading it up into emulators. They've said that it doesn't quite work on emulators, and that you, if you really want to experience it properly, you need to flash it to a cart and play it on an actual N64. But, you know, there's clearly a community already here, like putting the work in to make it playable and to figure out how to make this happen. So definitely go follow Forest Illusion on Twitter. I am following along and waiting to see when there's a point where we can actually just play this game proper. And then I want to figure out how to do it. Like I'm going to get a cart. I'm going to flash it, whatever we got to do. Because I would love to do a full playthrough of it. I think that would be so cool. So, fascinating.
The craziest thing for me? Yeah, the craziest thing for me is the fact this is called Dinosaur Planet and fucking Star Fox is in it and he's not even in the title of the game. Like, what the hell were they thinking with that title? Dinosaur Planet?
Well, that's the thing. Originally, it wasn't Fox. If you read about the development of this game, Dinosaur Planet was a totally original IP that Rare was working on, and Miyamoto came in like 75% of the way into the development and was like, this should be a Star Fox game. And then that was when they pivoted and they started adding Fox and all those elements, and then they brought it over to GameCube and it became Star Fox Adventures. So that's why like this version, it's one of the last builds. That's why it has Fox in it now. And I didn't know that. That's the thing that a lot of people had no idea about.
Who invented Star Fox? Was it a Rare creation like Diddy Kong was?
No, Star Fox is a Miyamoto creation, I believe. I'll confirm, but
because I know they did the Star Fox game on SNES, right? They created that Super FX chip and did the Star Fox game on Super NES.
It was created by Miyamoto, and the original game was developed by Nintendo EAD. Okay. So, yeah, it's like the main team. And then it was... Which one did Rare do? I'm trying to figure this out here.
I guess it would be Star Fox 2, and then that later became Star Fox 64.
Actually, no, I don't think they did 2. Because they definitely did Adventures. It doesn't look like they worked on 2, though.
Are you sure? Because they, like, created that Super FX chip for Donkey Kong. Right?
I'm not seeing that. I might be wrong, but like I'm seeing 64 was made by EAD as well. So I don't know. Maybe they came back to it at that point. Here we go. Star Fox.
I don't know. Who made Star Fox Adventures on GameCube? Was that a Rare game?
Star Fox 2 was also EAD. Yeah, and Adventures was Rare.
Okay.
Because that was what Dinosaur Planet was. It started as this, and then it became Adventures.
And then they must have literally just got bought by Microsoft at that point.
Yeah, I think this was the last non-Microsoft game that they pushed out. But yeah, either way, this is a wild, absolutely wild story. Totally fascinating. And it's something that like I really want to figure out how to make it work. Like I want to figure out how to fool around with this, and I really want to get the team behind Forest Illusion on the show to talk about this at some point. So I'm gonna reach out to them and try to get an interview. So we'll keep you posted on that. This is so cool. Like I'm all about game preservation, and this is a huge win for that. So I'm super excited to see where it goes. All right, so before we get into our main topic, let's quickly do our Ring Fit February recap. We are on week 3. We are moving into our final week. I have not yet done mine today, so I'm 20 days in, technically. Man, it's crazy, man. Like, it doesn't feel like we've been doing it that long, which I think is the biggest thing for me as of this update, is that, like, I'm increasingly getting used to the idea that this is just a part of my day, and more often than not, I look forward to it, and it doesn't feel like this chore that I'm having to do and like I'm ready to be over. It's just like, oh, this is just what I do now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same. It's like, kind of during the week, I have a little bit of trouble fitting it in, but it always feels like, all right, it's coming down to the end of the day. I better exercise, shower, get ready for bed, all that stuff. So it has become that part of my day. I know I tweeted out yesterday, Saturday, where I was like, man, I just feel like I can fit it in and do it whenever. And so I usually get a nice little long session in on Saturday, and then I feel good. I feel ready to go for the rest of the day.
I'm just 100% the opposite of that. Saturdays, I wake up and I'm just like, I don't want to do anything today. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to leave the house. I really just want a day where I do absolutely nothing. Just the things I want to do, like play games, watch TV, have my day of like rest. Because Sundays we record this show. Throughout the week we're streaming in the evenings, or I'm working. But I can find I fit it in a lot easier during the work week, because I'll finish my day, and like I said last week, it's just the transition from my work day to my evening, and I just do it then.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do it on my lunch break if I know I've got something on in the evening. But for the most time, it's fine. This week I found a lot easier than last week. I've just had the crippling leg day yesterday where I was just like dead by the end of it, and I skipped on like a battle for the first time because I saw the end. I was like, I'm just gonna skip this battle. But what I didn't realize is, unlike Pokemon, I thought it was gonna be like I exit Pokemon and I just get away safely and I can carry on the course. It takes you back to the map, so I was so annoyed with myself. Like
Yeah.
I gave up on that battle and it took me back to the map.
Yep.
And so I'm like, ugh, today I know I'm dreading. I'm gonna go do that same leg thing I did yesterday today.
And you were
Because I'm
so
on World
close.
6 and like I was so close to the end and I've got to do it all again. But I'm feeling a lot happier this week with how I've gone. I think I may have put the difficulty up a little bit too high yesterday. I put it up to 20 and it was a bit tricky for me. Like I did one of those gyms where I had to do the wide squat, and I've just picked up this one where it's just like this combo move, and I just can't get the timing right at all. I'm just like I have no rhythm whatsoever. It's like 1 2 1 1 2 2 1, and I'm just like I'm like trying to follow the guy, and I just can't do it. Like you're like squatting but also like lifting up at the same time, and I'm just like I have no idea how to do this.
That's great.
I remember. Is that one that you unlock from the skill tree? Like the
Yes, you
overhead
do.
squat? Yeah, that one was weird. I think I just got that one too.
It's so
I
strange.
forgot that happened where it just like shot you out to the map again. I think I did it once and I learned my lesson and I was like, whatever I do, I never leave these levels.
Yeah.
And
No, never ever.
that's just been like a subliminal thing in my mind. And so I'm sorry you ran into that because I did the same thing. And I was just like, oh man, this is a mistake.
Yeah,
It
it's a
should be
bummer.
Yeah. I was
before
like,
it got
I was, I was at like 12 minutes. I was like, I just don't want to do another battle. I just haven't got the energy in me, because it was really wearing me out. Those leg moves, because it was one of those levels where you have to constantly do squats,
That
and they had
drives
like
me
the
nuts.
well, this wait till you get, I don't know if you got to it yet, but there's ones where you have to do these swings and you have to squat, and you have to squat way more than you think you do, and like you
Oh, no, I
constantly
haven't
it's like
gotten there
squat again, and it like swings and flings you off this swing. But then after
Mhm.
that, there's like the jumps, and then you have to like squat to open chests. This whole course is just squats. I think by the end of it, I did like 50 squats just
Mhm.
getting through this course. And I was just like, I can't do anymore. So I just wanted to skip that enemy and just get to the finish line. But now I know I'm dreading it today because I know I've got to go do it again. And I might end up cheating like you did, Pete, and just do a bunch of mini games.
Yeah, I was gonna say yesterday I had officially the worst workout I've had, but the streak did not break, which is what is important, I think. So yesterday, so actually, I guess I should say this past week was my fiance Sarah's birthday. So we had agreed she didn't want a gift, she didn't want to do anything crazy. She just wanted me to make her a nice dinner on Saturday, right? So I made my Sunday sauce, which I've talked about on After Dark. It's just like a proper Italian, like meatball sausage, pork ribs, slow cooked for a few hours. It's fucking delicious. So I had to do that, right? And Saturdays are the day when I podcast with my other group, the Comics Pals. So we recorded 2 episodes back to back that day. So I'm done recording at like 3 o'clock. I was exhausted because I slept like crap the night before. So I took a nap that did not help at all. And I just didn't wake me up, made me more tired. So I had to get up and go shopping and then come back and start cooking. And this is like not a short meal, right? There's a good amount of prep. You got to sear all this meat. You got to like, it's a good amount of prep before you have to like wait for it to slow cook. So I didn't get to start working out until it's like already at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm in the middle of cooking. And I'm like wearing like, a nice outfit because I'm trying to look nice. And I was like, all right, I got to get this done. Forget it. So I go and get everything. I took off my jeans and just kept on my button-up shirt and was in my boxers and just did the squat mini game and was like, I'm going to beat my high score and like that'll be what I'm going to shoot for today. And I don't know why, I just couldn't get it right. Like the first time I did that mini game, I got an A rank and I was this close to the S tier. And I was like, I'm going to nail it this time. I did not even come close to beating my high score for whatever reason.
Honestly, I swear those squats, as you do more, you just get worse and worse. Honestly, it really is. I don't know if you've done the wide ones though, and they are so
Yeah,
hard.
they are.
So hard.
They're a good workout though. Like
Yeah.
you can feel how many muscle areas you're hitting and you're like, all right, this
yeah.
is going to be worth it. How like when I was doing the original squats, they were murder until they weren't,
Mm-hmm. Like my legs felt like jelly after that, which was why I just couldn't do it anymore. I was
Yeah.
like, I just can't feel like I can walk anymore, let alone run.
Because it's World 6, I think, which is the one where you have to fight all the evil versions of the 4 workout people,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I'm still there, and I like just stopped because I didn't want to do boss
Yeah,
fights.
so I've just finished that one. The next one, there's another one of those horrible leg
Legs.
gyms.
Okay,
which is what
great.
you're gonna have to do.
Great.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to look forward to. Because that was one where I think it's when you fight Allegra, to get to her, it's like you have to do like 100 squats. It's just like squat, 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 squat. You're just doing the hop, you
Yeah,
know? And
I
I was like,
know.
son of a bitch, can we just get to the fight?
It was
Like-
squat, 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 and then at the end, it's like now go up this massive long staircase by doing a bunch of knee lifts after you've just ruined your knees by doing all those squats. But get at it.
Yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
funny. Like, this was definitely the first week where I think like my body pushed back on me a little bit. Like, I had a bit of an ankle injury in the beginning of the week, and I had to take it easy, and then I was able to crank it up, and then I was tired on Saturday. So it's been like kind of ebbing and flowing, but like still feeling good. I'm still trying to crank up the difficulty and push myself, and I had like my best workout of the entire month this week too. So peaks and valleys.
Yeah. Yeah, I just finished up fighting all of those evil versions of the 4 champion people. And so today I'm just like, oh great, it's gonna be another Drago fight, which those are always the toughest, I'd say, where it's like a really long fight.
Yeah.
And now he's adding
Yeah.
enemies in there, so I have to use all these moves that attack multiple people at once. And
You
yeah,
know, I know
it's
you've
hard.
played it before, but this one's not that bad. It's the one where he's got 2 dumbbells, and you just attack each dumbbell, get it out of his hands, and then you attack him. I actually found that fight really easy, which is why the next day I went, I'm going to ramp the difficulty up even more to 20, and
Yeah.
that's when it was that leg gym, and I just wanted to cry.
Yeah, it's funny. I find the Drago fights only to be difficult when I've already been playing the rest of the day. Like the last
Yes.
time I fought him, it was the only thing I did that session, whatever, and it was like, oh, that's actually not so bad because you don't have to do any of the running. Like it's just the exercises, and it's like that's not too hard, you know. It's that
There's
mixed
times,
with the
though, when
cardio.
There's times though when I feel like he's cheating, where he's just like he brings in his friends again. It's
Yeah.
like they're back, and it's just like seriously, I felt like I was at the finish line, and then that fucking Matt slides in, and his health's back all the way up to almost full, and I'm just like, oh, great.
Yeah, you really
Pro
got
tip,
to play the
if you-
strategy. You got to take out the little guys.
Yeah. Well, if you defeat him, all the little guys disappear too.
Yes, yeah.
So that is nice. They're like, okay, you made it through the main guy. You don't have to deal with everybody else.
Yeah, I figured that out the last time. Not the last time I fought him. I think the time before that, because he had summoned everybody, and I was like, nah, I'm not hitting them again. He's almost dead. I'm gonna just kill him and see what happens.
Yeah, just go at him.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. And this was the first week where I really felt like this was a game more than just me doing workouts. Like I got to those 4 enemies that were previously friends, and I went into one of the battles, and I was like, shit, I'm all out of money. I've got no ingredients. So I had to go back to like World 3. And at this point, defeating the enemies in World 3 was like a breeze, super easy. I just did that like hip one, which looks like I'm doing like jiggling my ass, and I'm just like going side to side.
Yeah.
Did that on all of them, blitzed through. I took one of those smoothies, like I think it's the white pepper smoothie, that like doubles the items that get thrown down. And I was like, wow, this really is a JRPG. I'm just grinding
Yeah.
for items so I can go and defeat a boss. I was like,
Yeah.
this really does feel like any JRPG I've ever played.
It's funny. But yeah, I'm feeling good. You know, week 3 has been tight. I'm looking forward to wrapping up on week 4, and you know, I know we haven't really talked about this element of it. And I'm happy to offer this. You know, no one else has to, but I've actually lost 2 pounds every week since we started. Which has been great because like I haven't been super strict about my diet. Like I've been eating better than I used to in 2020, but like, you know, like Sarah's birthday and stuff, like we had pasta and meat sauce, and like we had cannoli chips for dessert and stuff. So, like I'm still eating junk, but like because I'm exercising and I'm not, you know, eating like crap the rest of the time, it's actually still impacting me positively, not just in building muscle, but I'm actually losing some weight too, which is cool. So yeah, I mean, like I know I'm gonna keep going past week 4. I don't know that I'll play every day, but I feel like the habit has been formed, and like I feel so much better that I'm
Yeah.
eager to keep going.
I think for me, I'm going to go at the end of this, and we'll talk more about it next week when it's the kind of Ring Fit February's
Yeah.
over and how this fits in. But I think at the moment, I'm thinking I'm going to go every weekday and carry on the 10 minutes every weekday and have the weekends off because
Yeah.
I know the weekends are my toughest. Like after this, we've got to record after dark. Then I've got to try and fit a workout in, cook dinner, edit the podcast, get it up, and it's like a rush. Whereas if I didn't have that, it would be like less daunting. But then part of me is just like I'm trying to put this off because I don't want to do that leg day again, and I know I've got to, so I just need to suck it up and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to like try to work in. So like I bought an exercise bike that I haven't been using because we've been doing this. So like I want to try to like experiment, work in some other stuff. But I definitely think I see it being a part of my routine moving forward for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing too. Like just doing it every day, you definitely get a better idea of like what days are the worst to try to fit this in.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like Monday and Friday. I really don't. Those are the ones that I'm just like, this is not what I want to do. Monday slightly is okay because that's when I edit and like export my podcast and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, it's gonna be exporting for 40 minutes or so. I guess I can do it during this time.
Yeah.
But Fridays for sure, I'm just like, I'm not gonna do it on Friday.
This
after
week,
this.
starting to do it like either on my lunch break or like actually I was working out during meetings at work, and I found that was helpful for me where like I just had my mic muted and I was doing the exercises like, because if anybody's ever worked at like in a corporate structure, like a white collar job, a lot of meetings will be like, oh, it's like a 30-minute meeting, but maybe you talk for 5 minutes of it or you talk for 20 minutes of it. So what I've been doing now, instead of just sitting there and like scrolling through Twitter or whatever, I'm like, oh, well, I'll do half my workout now, like I started on my lunch break and then for the first 20 minutes of the meeting, I could keep going, and like the best workout I had or one of the best workouts I had this week was doing that. Like I had got 15 minutes out on my lunch break and was like, oh, whatever, I'll go for another 10. Who cares?
Have either of you tried the multitask mode, which is aimed for that? Like, is exercises you can do while doing something else?
I
So if
haven't.
you like pick it from the main menu, you
I
can like
haven't
do
fucked
like
around. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
you can just do like putting things into your neck is the one that it demonstrates, or like the arm ones, so that you could be sat down watching TV and do other stuff, and it like logs it on the Rincon while your Switch is on, without you having to look at the screen.
I like that. I haven't touched that or the rhythm mode because I tried to
No.
play around with one of the other ones and I noticed that like it didn't seem like it had the timer, which is like obviously key to what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
The rhythm mode, I know, having done that one this week, the fucking combo up down squat with it going like this. There's no way I'll be able to do the rhythm mode, so I might as well just not bother.
I'm going to fool around with that stuff when we're done with the challenge. And then, like, I'm just doing it to get exercise in a week. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, those might be things that'll be good, kind of like compromises for me on days like I had yesterday, where I'm like, I don't really want to work out, but I want to do something. And, like, maybe I can fit that in.
Yeah, I've gotten to play with the rhythm mode, and there is like difficulty settings for them. So some of the easier ones I think are just the arms, and they don't implement like the squatting and things. So that's pretty
Okay.
cool. The other thing about them though too is like you've never felt like a 3-minute song was so long in your life.
I feel like
If it
that'll
was
be a
like
fun
to
one.
music I loved.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like,
Like if it was like say they brought in the Smash soundtrack and you could just have, say, I don't know, Persona 5's dancer stuff in there. Like doing it to the Persona 5 soundtrack instead, or like the Mario music or some Zelda
Yeah.
tracks. It would be so good.
They do have a couple. There is a Zelda track. There's Splatoon. I
Oh, the
think one of
Splatoon
the
stuff's in there. That's so cool.
yeah, I want to say they have one or two of each of those. But yeah, they did add some, but a lot of it's just like the Ring Fit songs that we already know and listen
I don't
to,
want
and
that.
you're just like, no, I'm gonna do this video game one.
I want it to be more like Beat Saber. Like, yeah, what you were saying, where it's classic songs, like that Smash integration would be genius. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see. They added that, so maybe they'll add more songs at some point. All right, so let's jump into our main topic, which is it is the 35th birthday of Zelda today, as of this recording. So 35 years, 35 wonderful years with Zelda. You don't look a day over. What's a 25? Yeah, we'll say whatever. You're still looking good, Zelda. So we just wanted to like kind of briefly touch on this, give a little bit of celebration for this series, talk about our relationships with the franchise, some of our favorites, kind of what we'd love to see it do this year and beyond, really. So Chuy, why don't you start? Like, where are you at as a Zelda fan?
Yeah, I guess just a little background. The first Zelda game I played was Ocarina of Time, and I experienced it in a couple different ways. Where the first time I just watched my older brother play through it. He would come over like every weekend just to sit there and play for a long time, and I was like, I'm all about this. I'm just gonna enjoy this ride as you go through it. So I watched him play through it. It was definitely scary for me as a kid when I played. There's a lot of really just like frightening elements
Yeah.
to that one. But eventually I
They're
did.
frightening now. Like I scream when I see those spiders.
Yeah, yeah.
And the re-deads freaked you out a little bit too, right? The zombies.
Oh yeah, when you grow
Yeah, they
up
were
and you start seeing
horrible.
the redeads,
That
they're
scream that
It's
they
terrifying.
like the
have.
scream it makes. Yeah.
Yeah, so eventually I did like find the courage to finally play it for myself instead of just like watching my brother go through it. Cause like, I don't know, I've always been a horror movie fan. So for me watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. For me playing it, I was like, oh, it's a little too much. um, but yeah, so that was my first one. It took me a while before I played some of the older Zeldas and everything, kind of the more top-down 2D ones. Still, I'd say to this day, I still prefer the 3D Zeldas to those, but I think they're both great regardless. But yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild for me was just like, yes, everything about this, I'm good. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that's my last experience. Well, I guess I played Age of Calamity too to get more of that Breath of the Wild feel, but Breath of the Wild 2 is like easily become my most anticipated game
Sure.
since Animal Crossing.
How about you, Steve?
The first Zelda game I've ever played all the way through is Breath of the Wild, which is probably crazy for a lot of people listening.
Fresh
But
blood.
I'd never got hooked by the series prior to that. I famously have never liked Ocarina of Time.
Except now you
I
do,
like
right?
Wind Waker.
Now that you're
Yeah,
playing
I
it.
like it now. I played in and out of Wind Waker. I think that game is gorgeous. I've never completed that one either, so at some point I will go back and finish that. I love Link to the Past. That game's gorgeous. It does so many things right, and you can see, like, all the way through the series where that to me is the definitive Zelda game. They got a lot from that and moved it forward. I've never played the original on the NES. I tried on the NES Switch Online collection. I just couldn't get on with it. It was too old.
You
for
have
me.
to play it with a strategy guide, I think, in 2021 if you want to
Yeah.
have a good experience. Like, if you want to have the proper experience with it, God bless. But I think a lot of modern gamers will struggle to have the patience because it just doesn't tell you where to go or what to do. But if you have a guide and you actually just play it in order, like I did that for the first time for a Let's Play series like a few years ago, and I actually found it to be pretty rewarding.
I might check it out at some point, but I'm angling for like another 2D Zelda, like Link's Awakening. Like I think that game was gorgeous, and it was so different to every other Zelda. Like no other Zelda, you've got Goombas and Chain Chomps running around Hyrule. It's like what? So I loved that. And I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is Breath of the Wild 2, but I also really want more Zelda games to come to Switch. Like I said on the Direct Special, it's crazy to me that the only two 3D Zelda games we're going to have on Switch is going to be Breath of the Wild, which is seemingly people think is the best 3D Zelda game ever, and Skyward Sword, which is seen as the worst 3D Zelda game ever. And we don't have any of the other classics like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. Why aren't they on Nintendo's latest console? And hopefully they do eventually make it there. I would like a 3D pack, but I would buy Wind Waker individually. I would buy Twilight Princess individually if it came out and it was at a reasonable price.
I mean,
Sure.
it makes no sense that they're not here yet, just considering like everything from the Wii U has been moved. Why not give us those HD Wind Wakers and Twilight
I
Princesses?
honestly think they've been holding them. I think they've
Well,
been.
this
Yeah,
year for the
Yeah,
35th, yeah.
yeah. Uh,
yeah.
so as far as my relationship with the franchise goes, big Zelda fan for sure. My first was Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. I famously told that story when it was remastered, and Pixel and Steve made fun of me forever that I was like a savant bragging about it or something. But I did beat that game as a child. It was the first Zelda I ever beat. It was one of the first. I think it was the first non-Pokemon video game I beat by myself. So it's very, very formative experience for me is Link's Awakening. And then after that, I got Ocarina. And then I think the next one for me was Wind Waker. And it wasn't until the GameCube era when they had thrown out that disc where I was able to go back and try the original two.
Yeah.
I did not get far with them. I completed them. Like I said, I beat Legend of Zelda just a few years ago for the first time. I've never completed two. Majora's Mask, I
Isn't
played.
that,
Go ahead.
isn't that crazy though that like even the GameCube had them ported to it? Like
And
it's
we
been
don't
on
have it here.
every Nintendo console since the N64, but it's still not
Yep.
available to buy. It's mad to
It's
me.
odd. It's certainly odd. I played Wind Waker as a teenager, and then I wasn't into Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, so I was a bit of a lapsed fan, I guess you could say. Like I had played the 3DS ports of Ocarina and Majora's when they were on 3DS, and like I played some of the handheld stuff from that period. Like I played Link Between Worlds and some of those things, but Breath of the Wild was really a return to form, I think, for the franchise, because I think Zelda, even at Nintendo's most family friendly, most kiddie, whatever you want to say, like Zelda has always, I think, been a franchise that feels larger than life. It feels like a bit like a big boy game, kind of thing. Like, and that was unique among Nintendo franchises, is that it has that whimsy and that level design and the music and the iconography that you expect from a Nintendo game, but with a little bit more maturity. It asked a little bit more of you as a player. And those were things, especially as a kid, like overcoming them and figuring them out, like made me feel smart, made me feel accomplished, and like that is what I think is so special about Zelda, is like it is and that's what Breath of the Wild did. It tapped into the original game, and Zelda's about the aha moment, right? It's about being, I'm in a place and there's a thing I need to solve and I know I have the tools, but what do I do? And like that to me is the core. It's that, and it's that sense of exploration and discovery, And to me, like, that is the most important thing for where it goes next, is that it holds on to that, is that it learns the right lessons from Breath of the Wild. And it doesn't have to be any of the, like, the weapon degradation or, like, the glider or all the climbing. Like, all those things are great. And, I want to see some of that stuff stay, but, like, none of that is core to what Zelda is, right? What made Breath of the Wild special is that you could walk over, like every time you came over a hill, you're like, I wonder what's going to be on the other side. And you knew it was going to be satisfying. Like that's what Zelda needs to be. That's what it needs to hold on to for me.
Yeah, and there are a couple things there too, because I agree with you for sure. Like Breath of the Wild was, for me, a change that Zelda needed. Ocarina of Time, played it, had a great time, classic. It's hard not to love it. Majora's Mask, pretty different take on that whole system for sure. Like everything was it was just different overall, with like the time travel, the clock kind of
that one and Link's
always
Awakening
counting
are both
down.
so like out there,
Yeah, they really did something different with with the assets that they had. From there, we got like Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and like after a while, I was just like, Twilight Princess, I got most of the way through that game. I'd say there's like one dungeon I skipped, and I think I fought the final boss for my brother because he was having trouble with it. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. So, like, I got most of the way through before I dropped it. And I was just like, man, it just feels like I've done this before.
Yeah, it just feels like
And
every game after Ocarina was chasing Ocarina.
yeah, it was basically trying to emulate that. And Skyward Sword, I couldn't get through the intro to that game.
Same.
I would love to revisit it, but I don't know if I'll be interested enough to. But like Breath of the Wild, just like dropping that formula that has been true for, I don't know, 10 plus years or so of the game, I'm just like, yes, this is what I needed for this game to feel fresh. And I'd say for it, like moving forward, I mean, they could get away with this again for me.
Yeah.
Using a lot of the same stuff. I'm like, there's not much that needs to be like really improved with stuff. Some of like flipping through inventory and things can be a little bit of a pain, but I don't know. I think they nailed it, and even to the point where it's like Jackie will see me play some games here and there, and Zelda was like the one, at least Breath of the Wild was the one she questioned the least, because she was like, "Oh, it makes sense. You can just go up there." Like,
Yeah.
and other games you play, and it's just like, "Why can't I go through this area that clearly looks like I can go through
The
it?" You
physics
know?
in Breath of the Wild are so underrated. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever played a video game that had that moment that you're describing as much, where it's like, oh, I wonder if I can do this. And the answer is 99.9% of the time, the answer is, yeah, you can probably, if you can think of it, you can probably do it.
Yeah. Like
Hmm.
chopping down a tree to make a bridge across the river so you don't have to swim across it. It's
Yeah.
like, why wouldn't
Yeah.
you be able to do that? But in what other video game can you do that?
None,
It's
right?
it's just like mad
Or
that all
like
of these things.
the first time that I had like the balloons, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I put all these on a boat, will it fly? Like, can I make an airship? You sure can. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, so just like the freedom that they created with that game, I'm just like, I don't know if I can go back to the regular old dungeon style of things. I mean, I think they
No,
could be well
I'm the same. I think
implemented, but I don't necessarily feel like I need it as much as I did before.
I don't feel like I need it, but I do think, and this is something that while we've been playing Ocarina on stream, I've been kind of thinking a lot, is that like I think it would be really cool to see a return to dungeons and dungeoneering, but not getting rid of the rest of the elements of Breath of the Wild. So, like, if Breath of the
Mhm.
Wild 2 was that there are, like, 7 dungeons or whatever, rather than the Divine Beasts, and those take the place of that as, like, the static events in the game, but the rest of the overworld is still Breath of the Wild-esque, I think that could be really cool. Because then you'd get, like, if you get to the point where you're like, like, I'm kind of done exploring right now, like, I want to do something a little more focused, you could go do one of the dungeons, you know? And I feel like that could be a cool
Mhm.
way to break up the vibes of the game. And then you could go underground and have like very different architecture, very different like style of the dungeons versus the overworld. I think that it could be neat. But I think that's what's so cool about Breath of the Wild is that it tore away all those conventions and did something fresh and showed you that Zelda could be something else. And now it's like, well, if you want to go back to some of those wells, they'll feel fresh again. But if you don't and you just keep pushing forward, I'm good with that too.
Yeah, but also like I feel sort of like the shrines kind of accomplished that in a way.
Yeah.
And I mean, to some extent, this was also like a little bit of a disconnect to me in my head at points where I'd like go into a shrine and it's a space that you really have to think about very differently because
Mm-hmm.
it's not quite like the overworld, like that exploration. For one, like all of the materials in there, they get rid of your climbing power. And that's like a big part of the movement in the outside. All of the tools that you use aren't like your weapons and regular stuff. It's all Sheikah slate things. And so every once in a while, like when I was stumped on a shrine, it was basically that like my brain hadn't flipped over from here are the overworld mechanics, here are the
Yeah.
shrine mechanics kind of thing. So, to that extent, I wouldn't mind like a mix of those two, like a true mix of those, because we don't get that too much in Breath of the Wild, where it's like, here's this world, and here it is with it having kind of elements of the shrines implemented into that,
Yeah.
rather than having it like very separate areas.
Yeah, and I think that would be so neat because then you could like experiment with like deeper puzzles that are like multi-layered, you know? Because like that's kind of like how the dungeons work in Ocarina, right? It's like you go there, you achieve a certain set of things, you get an item that allows you to interact with other parts of the dungeon. It brings that Metroidvania element to it, and I feel like that could be cool, built upon the bones of like what Breath of the Wild did with the shrines, where you do have. You know, maybe it isn't that you get a special item and that's how you beat the dungeon, that it is like you have those set levels of tools, and it's like, hey, like, you know, there's going to be some combat and stuff in here, but this is way more oriented on you, like, getting inside a space, becoming familiar with it, figuring out where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do in what order, because that's kind of how the Divine Beasts were, right? Like, they are way more like dungeons than not, but they're also a lot shorter, and they're not as, like, multi-layered, so I don't feel like they feel as memorable, because that's what I like about the dungeons in Ocarina, is that like you're like, oh right, like when we got to like the Dongo's Cavern, for example, it was like, okay, like first you have to go to the right wing and go solve all those other things, and then that'll open up that door over here, and you get to this other part, and then when you get the bomb bag, you gotta backtrack, and like you even as somebody who hadn't played Dodongo's Cavern in, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something like that, right? Like since the 3DS, I remember the phases of it, you know, and like I remember the beats of it and the different enemies you find in different locations. And like I think that could be really cool in the context of a more Breath of the Wild style experience.
Yeah, and that totally reminds me, like the Divine Beast overall felt very samey, but at the same time, there was one Divine Beast in particular that had kind of the most memorable moment of my gameplay in that, and that's when you first go into what's the Divine Beast with that's in the volcano? Um,
I don't remember their
Oh yeah,
names.
the lizard one.
Yeah.
yeah, the lizard one. That one, you start out in like pitch black when you first enter that, and I just wished that moment played out a lot more, where I was like, "Oh, cool. I have all of these tools that I learned where to like, kind of combat the nighttime in the overworld that I'm now applying here." And I wish that moment lasted a bit longer, because I was like, oh, this is kind of tense. Like, I don't really see where I'm going. I've got to make sure I've got my fire and find all these things. So I feel like that's a good example of how they can mix kind of the overworld mechanics with the shrine mechanics and just make those puzzles a lot more interesting and a lot more exciting.
And I think having those kinds of puzzles be able to be solved in a Breath of the Wild style way, where there's like, hey, there's actually probably like 4 things you can do, rather than like in Ocarina where it's like, go in this room, hit this target, go to the next room, beat this enemy. Like, it's very like, if this, then that. And it would be so cool to be able to be like, you've got 6 tools, maybe 3 of them work here. Like, figure it out. Like, what's the way you want to tackle this? Because that's what's also really fun about Breath of the Wild, is that like we could play the exact same sections and complete them totally differently. Any other thoughts on what we'd like to see next? Because I think the only other thing I can think of is like what Steve said. I'd love to see more of the legacy titles come forward, see more of the like the Link's Awakening style remasters of some of the older games. Like, I think other than that, I'm ready for Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I just say I still really want to see Zelda become playable in some form.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we got the trailer nailed last week and how they're going to reveal it. So I think we can safely
Fingers
let
crossed.
Nintendo have that one.
Yeah. Feel free to steal the idea, guys. I'm giving this one to you. All right, so happy birthday again, Zelda. Thanks for everything you've done for us. Looking forward to celebrating your birthday the rest of the year. And remember, if you want to catch Steve's first ever playthrough of Ocarina of Time in honor of Zelda's 35th anniversary, we've been doing that on twitch.tv/LootPots every Thursday. We are in the process of getting the archive of episodes up for you somewhere. So if you've missed them or whatever, and you missed the beginning and you want to watch it in order, don't worry, it'll be on YouTube for you pretty soon. Before we bounce and I get into the rest of the plugs, Chuy, let everybody know where they can find you, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I am Chewy Plays or Chewy Plays Nintendo everywhere, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and I host a podcast called Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast. So it's all about Animal Crossing. But yeah, that's basically where you can find me.
Awesome. Check it out. And thanks again for joining us, Joe.
Yeah.
And then, again, if you guys want to get us, we are at LootPots, wherever you get your video game content. We're there making some content for you. We've got the main YouTube channel where we've got our video essays. We've got the PotsCast channel, which we are, of course, trying to hit 100 subs. So if you are there right now, please click that subscribe button. If you're not, please navigate over there and click that subscribe button. I would really love to see us cross that 100 subscriber milestone this week. So please go be a part of that. And then, of course, we've got the Twitch every Thursday. Like I said, go check it out. We'll probably be back this Friday or another day again with more Mario. You can keep up with that stuff by either following us on Twitter or heading over to the Discord. We've got a Twitch channel over there where we're updating when we're going to go live, letting you know what's on the schedule, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to keep up with the cool stuff we've been doing, those are the two best ways to do it. We don't tweet very often, so if you want to go and put on tweet notifications, you'll pretty much exclusively get updates about when we're going live, when this show goes up, and, cool deals and stuff like that every once in a while. So I think it's worth doing if you want to keep up with the cool stuff we've got going on. And then, of course, last but not least, if you want to show your support, you can head over to patreon.com/LootPots, where for just $1, you'll be able to get access to our episode of After Dark for this week, where we're going to be talking about Scanners, which was a dumb 90s toy, and Mario Party E, which was a e-reader Mario Party title, as well as probably some other things. So if you want to get that and all the 70 some odd plus episodes of After Dark we've done in the past, just $1 gets you all of that extra content and really helps us out, helps us keep the mics rolling and grow and do all kinds of fun new stuff. So yeah, I hope you'll go support us in all those ways that I just outlined. And of course, I hope that your year so far has been safe, that you're staying sane, and that you're playing some good games. So with that, that's been this episode of the PotsCast. Catch you next week.